contract explanations, you had asked me the last time, and Mr. Murray brought up some obvious issues, and I had understood that the board was wanting me to, as board attorney, go back and check these, and I have done so with Mr. Williker and Ms. Wainscott, in particular Mr. Williker, and I've asked her to try to get this down into a page explanation here, since we're going back to the 05-06 year. And so let me hand those out to everybody and see if this makes all of this a little more readable. First, I guess I would summarize by saying that in reviewing all of this, I found no impropriety from the standpoint that anything was paid that was not approved by the board in its salary schedule. I looked at the minutes, I looked at the contracts, I looked at the checks. Ms. Terwilliger ran numbers. She gave me documents so I could look at that, and the numbers appear to be approved in salary schedules. Now, Mr. Murray brought up a couple of good points from the standpoint that in 05-06 there were 2 contracts. The best I can tell on what happened there is that it looks like there was a network administrator hired in October of 2005. At that point, apparently, there was a decision made that that network administrator should not be paid more than what the finance officer was. They should at least be compatible. And so the board in October of that year adjusted the salary schedule for the finance officer. They made, the year had begun July 1. So the second contract that you looked at supersedes the first contract. The salary was $64,899 for that year. Now, could there have been some plainer language put in that contract? Yes, no question about it, to make that more clear that the intent was to pay the $64,899 and to rescind the first contract that had gone in.
So you're saying 64? I saw a contract for 54 and 66.
There was one, $54,030 for 240 days was the first contract for 05-06.
Okay.
The second contract is the $64,899. It was for 235 days. So those are the 2 contracts and the 2 different amounts. And she was paid $64,899. That's the second contract that was approved by the board in October. And again, the minutes are bare bone minutes, so I can't for positive say to you that what I believe happened to be indicated in minutes, because it's not. But it looks like the network operator or administrator that we hired at that time, that they were trying to balance out the salaries between the 2. That's what it looks like. Okay? Now, the second place where you bring up a good point, and there's clearly an error, and it looks like a munis error, the best I can tell, is in 2010, the contract's wrong. It shows that the pay for that year was $79,334. In reality, it was $79,514. Okay, so once again, there's an error that, if you look at it, on its face, doesn't match what the salary schedule was approved by the board, which is the $79,514. But again, to me, it looks simply like a clerical error that shouldn't happen, and it looks like it's the munis system that Ms. Terwilliger was trying to point out the last time, prints out the contracts, and you need to go back and verify that what's getting printed out, which sometimes prints out before all the schedules are out, because they want to get it out, a contract signed before the first paychecks come out in July, but we're not always getting those numbers matched up. See what I'm saying? And so there's a couple of those problems that I saw.
Okay, so you're saying that the contracts are completely fine in your eyes?
No, I'm not saying they're completely fine, I'm saying that there's some clerical errors in them,
Okay.
and that those clerical errors do not, the contracts do not match what the board did, which was pass the salary schedule that reflects all these numbers that I'm showing you here on this page, with the exception that on the sub for payroll clerk, that is a call that was made by the superintendent because the payroll clerk was out. And so the superintendent, as I understood the situation, had the choice of either trying to contract somebody in here for the payroll clerk or offering to let other personnel work those hours and do the duties of the payroll clerk and then pay that individual for it. And that was done in the finance officer situation, in those places where I had it noted here.
What year are you referring to on the payroll clerk?
Okay, first of all, it happened in 0708. See the asterisk? See the asterisk there? $5,901.39 on the handout I gave you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here you
At the end,
See it there? And the exponent,
And who was the payroll clerk at that time? 708.
I don't think we can say that.
But she's no longer with us.
well, I really don't feel comfortable here as your board attorney talking personnel issues. I'll tell you
So,
what it is,
okay, well,
if we can do it one-on-one.
how did that, let me rephrase it.
Yeah.
In 7 and 8, what happened to the payroll clerk?
Okay, there was a period of time when she was ill. There were some issues. I don't know all of those issues. I have to go back and get you the history of them. The payroll clerk was off.
And you're saying this is in 7 and 8?
I'm saying in 7 and 8 it happened, yes, according to the documents that have been supplied to me
But your
by,
documents are not correct, because that's not, I believe, hold on a second.
now, Mr. Murray, the sub pay for the payroll clerk would not match the contract. That's my point now.
I understand that, but can we turn on document camera at this point?
You got it right there?
Let's look at a few things here.
Okay.
In 2011 and 2012,
Wait a minute now, 2011, 2012, which is, okay, on here as regular pay, 7504,392.
okay, in 2011 and 2012, we were all the way up to $101,000 was paid out to our finance director.
That's correct, and I broke that down for you.
Well,
Yes, sir.
where are we back in 7 and 8? The payroll, the minutes that was given to me
Okay.
was, were they that far back that,
Okay, well, let's, okay,
I
hold
have
on,
payroll
hold-
right here.
hold on. Can we use this sheet a minute now? We'll
Sure,
look-
go ahead.
Okay, look. I broke out 7 and 8 for you. Here. I
Mhm.
had it broken out, and I've looked at this. Her regular salary in 7 and 8 is the $70,158.96.
Mhm.
Then there's a director's supplement, and this point, the director's supplement's a part of the salary schedule approval, okay?
When was that approved?
I've got the minutes in here. It was approved when the salary schedule for that year was
No, sir.
approved.
You can't approve, you can't approve a direct supplement just by approving the salary schedule. It
Okay.
doesn't work like that.
Well, let me tell you that in all three of my districts, it's done different. And I had this conversation with the finance folks. In one of my districts, they separate the two out. The other district, not including this one, they put them both in the salary schedule and they approve it all at the same time. The important thing is that they're separated out and the board looks at it and the board passes the thing. And so, let me finish. In 0708, her regular salary was $70,158.96. The director's supplement of $42.90, and that was a year in which the payroll clerk had absenteeism. And she was paid $5,901.39 for time that she worked doing the duties of the payroll clerk, and she was paid at the same hourly rate, and that was authorized by the superintendent. So you get the number that's there of
Yep.
$80,000.
Let's back up there. That was authorized by the superintendent, increase in pay?
No, it's not an increase. She was doing additional duties and duties that belong to the payroll clerk. So you have one
That
of
still
two.
comes through the board. That would have to be approved by the board to give someone else extra pay in
Well,
any position.
That's a debatable point, okay? Here's
Not by the Office of Education and Accountability. it's
Well,
not.
okay, here's the debatable point. The superintendent is who you hire to run the,
Absolutely.
and when you have a person that's out on sick leave or not present, she's gotta get the work done in some fashion. Now, normally, if it's a certified staff member for in the classroom, we just talked about all that, you're gonna get it off the sub list, okay? But in this situation, it's a payroll clerk, there is no substitute for it. So you're gonna either get an outside service to supply somebody, or you're gonna come up with some way to get the work done. And so in this situation, the superintendent says, do I have someone that can do this? If you'll do the duties, I will pay you the extra time, and authorizes it. And that's what's occurred. And each of these asterisks on there, where I've shown you by asterisks that it occurred, and there's an explanation on the back page, that's what occurred as best I can determine. Now, here's the point that I think you're well taken here tonight on, and I've had a discussion with finance about this. I believe going forward that the regular salary should be clearly handled one of two ways. If you're gonna put it in one contract, the regular salary ought to be at one point so you can read it and tell it's a regular salary. And then if you're getting a supplement, either do a separate contract or put that in the contract in such a way that it's clear that it is a supplement. And deal with it that way going forward so people can determine where it's at. A discussion I had with finance last week was that they were gonna look at all that, and get with the superintendent and make a decision as to whether you're gonna have separate contracts for the supplement and a separate contract for the salary, as you're talking about here. And if the board wants that on a separate vote in the boardroom, instead of putting it all in the same salary schedule, then the board should give some direction to the superintendent and to finance, and she gives it to finance. That's the way you all want it going forward. But what I was charged with doing the other night, as I understand, was to try to get to the bottom of this and figure out what happened, and then explain it to you all, and let you all decide going forward how you want to deal with it. And
Well, let me, you had mentioned 7 and 8, that was a sub for payroll clerk, the extra money, correct?
yes,
Okay.
the $5,901.39.
Okay, if I can draw your attention to the screen, if you look at the minutes for June 20th, 2011,
Okay.
that's at 7:30 PM. This is part of this is the approve of medical leave. This is obviously meeting minutes, Miss Debbie Spade Powers. How can we have monies back in 7 and 8 for additional sub payroll clerk when the board didn't approve a medical leave until 2011?
Well, first of all, you know, the medical leave for 2011 that you're pointing out may be the medical leave that's shown for 2011 that's on here. I don't know, I have to go back and determine that. But 07, 08, I'm telling you, from what I looked at, the payroll clerk was all for a reason. Now, I have to go back and research the reason and rationale behind it.
This is the frustration. We got a lot of different documents floating around. How can I, this is what the finance officer and consultant gave us to document what this $101,000 that was paid out.
Okay, now, 101,000 is in 11, 12 now, we're
Yeah,
talking about
and
7, 8. Yeah, you
My
said,
point is that the board did not approve medical leave until 2011, June 20.
okay, 2011,
So
June
if
20.
that person didn't leave until 2011, how are we talking that the sub for payroll clerk is in 7 and 8?
Okay, but that's my point.
Different.
In different years, I mean, in 11-12, you've got a sub for payroll clerk of
So we're
$21,000.
talking two different people left?
No, I believe it's the same person, but it's two different time periods. And the payroll clerk in 07-08, I don't know what that time period is without trying to go back and research that, and I don't know from right off the top of my head here tonight. That $5,901.39 was for some reason that she was off. And the board may or may not at that time have given her a medical leave. I don't know that she was off long enough at that point. I don't know what the rationale was in 07-08. I just know that the clerk, that the finance officer was paid that $5,901 for doing the duties of the payroll clerk who was off for a period of time in 07-08. That's what I know right now. To answer your question, honestly, I'd have to go back and dig some more on that. I don't know the rationale.
Okay, let's move up to 2011 then.
Okay.
Was there board approval for this? Because this is obviously what was given to me for approval by the board. How do you put in meeting minutes, approval of medical leave, Ms. Davis Spade Powers, how is that additional how does that grant that extra $21,702.19, which brings that total with the supplement up to $101,000? How does that happen?
Okay, let's get something clear here. I'm not saying that the board ever specifically approved in any salary schedule the sub for the payroll clerk. What I'm showing on here is sub for payroll clerk. I'm not saying that any place that the board specifically authorized that in a salary schedule. Because the situation was you have a sick employee, your chief executive officer makes a decision that I've got to get the payroll checks out, and unless I get it done quickly, and I've only got one or two choices,
I'd give you that argument on a week or 2 weeks, but not a whole year. I mean, you're telling me in a year's time you could not bring that back before this board?
Again, I'm not gonna say that she didn't bring it back in front of the board at this point. You're questioning me at this point about something that I haven't given any huge amount of detail to, how many times that particular employee had sick leave approved. But having sick leave approved by the board here is different than necessarily getting the $21,702.
I'll agree 100% on that.
Okay, so I don't think they're the same thing.
Well, that's what the documentation, that was what was given to me to explain the extra documented pay of $21,000.
I don't think it does. The
Well,
way I
I'm telling you
read
what was
this,
given.
okay, well, here's the way I read this, subject to somebody tell me I've read it wrong. The way I read it was that the superintendent used her executive powers to authorize the work to be done by the finance officer and pay the finance officer for the extra work, and it's shown by those numbers there that I've got the asterisk next to it.
Well, number one, that cannot happen. The superintendent doesn't have executive power to go and do that for a year's time. I mean, there could be a week in there, we could argue that, we could argue a couple of weeks, but not a year's time.
Okay, well, first of all, when you say a year's time,
Yes, sir.
okay, are you saying that $21,702.19 is an entire year?
Well, we'll run through it here. 7/1/2011, there was extra pay given.
Wait a minute now, okay, are you in the 11-12 period now?
We're in 11-12 period, yes, sir.
Okay,
7/1/2011, extra pay was given. 7/15/2011, extra pay. 8/1, extra pay. 8/15, extra pay. 9/1, extra pay. 9/15, I take that back, not 9/15. 9/30, extra pay. 10/14, extra pay. 11/1, extra pay. 11/15, extra pay. 12/1, extra pay. 12/15, extra pay. 12/30, extra pay. 1/13, extra pay. 2/1, extra pay. 2/15, extra pay. 3/1, we're into 2012, extra pay.
Yes.
3/15, extra pay. 3/30, extra pay. 4/13. 5/1, extra pay. 5/15, extra pay. 6/1, extra pay. 6/15, extra pay. And then that also goes up into the 2013 school year, which was, I believe, it was about $2,000 something dollars.
$2,227.
If my memory recalls.
Right.
And then the superintendent had made this sheet up that had explained to us new board members as we came on board. This sheet was given to us in a finance meeting. Gallatin County Schools budget cuts since 2008, 2009, gives a list, talked many times about, Geb just basically names the people, not increases. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. If you look at number 24, it says cut payroll benefits position in central office 2012 to 2013. Duties will be spread among the remaining finance personnel. 41,500 salary and benefits was saved. But my argument in all that is this: it was not approved by this board. There's no meeting minutes. I've looked through all meeting minutes.
Okay, Ms. Moran, when you're saying it wasn't approved, you're talking about what I've asterisks as a subhead, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and I don't think we have,
and director. Director
Well,
has not been approved by this board.
well, I disagree with that because I believe it was approved as a salary schedule. But I do agree with you on the subpart, and I agree with you that the chief executive officer made that call. So now, we can argue over whether or not that was proper or improper, but I don't think anybody has done anything criminally wrong here or anything of that nature, and people got paid for work they did. Now, are there ways that this board can direct going forward that it wants it handled? Yes, it's up to the board.
Well, I think there's still a huge explanation also. We went from 54,000 to 79,000 also, that no one still has brought those numbers about. How, where does that money lie? There is no explanation of those monies outside the $4,470 in director pay.
Okay, well, I started out with
The 10,000, you explained that.
right, the 54,030 to what went to 64,899. I believe it was to match. I believe to try to get the finance officer to the same level that the network administrator that you were hiring was.
Okay, and then so we're up to 64. Where if you take
And then
64
every
to
year,
79,
then every year, it looks to me like that the raises that are in here, where the step ups are whatever goes along with it. Now,
I
there
took the
are,
percentages. We never got over a 4% raise, and those percentages don't come out. It's way over 4%. So,
well, I would have to sit down and disagree with you. I don't believe that's the case from what I saw. Now,
well, let's do this. Let's put that on paper, and that was what tonight was supposed to be, to completely explain where that jump in pay was at.
well, I've tried to do that as simply as I can get it laid out here.
I mean, that doesn't show me from year to year where your increases are coming from. We went from 54 to 64. You explained the 10,000. The board did not approve it. You admit.
Hold on. Okay, then it went from 64,899 to 66,197, which I believe, if we go research it, will be the typical move up that everybody got commensurate. Nobody got any different there. And I believe when it went from 66,197 to 70,158, it's the same thing. Now, you might ask, and I ask fairly, but again, I'm back 8 years here, and I gotta believe I have no memory of it. There's a director's supplement that was put on of 3,290 in 06-07, and then the director's supplement gets the same move up that the rest of the people on the sheet get in that extra salary part of it, and it starts moving up. Your question may legitimately be, well, how come we put an executive or a director supplement on there? Frankly, I don't know the answer to that, okay, at this point, because I didn't research through all
Where do
of
we
that.
get that answer, though? How can we get
Well,
that
I
answer?
think
'Cause
that
that's what
part
we-
of that is sitting down with the chief executive officer and talking with the chief executive officer
And
about
in
how
all
that
due
occurred.
respect, we've had 2 weeks since the last meeting, and that's what we were supposed to be discussing here tonight, was these
Well,
issues.
now wait a minute, let's be fair about that. I'm your board attorney. I'm trying to respond to what you guys told me to do, and I asked the finance people to supply me this information. I didn't meet with the superintendent. I met with the finance folks and made them show me these numbers, and then verified them by looking at checks and everything else that they added up. So I did not spend the time, and if you direct me to do it, I will, on why we have the director supplement and all those sorts of things.
Well, we'll see what the night brings. Talking about the pay, let's talk about the pay you had mentioned there, the detailed check reports. Because I'll be honest, I don't see our detailed check reports as being true and tried and honest, and I'll show you why. Those reports can be manipulated, and they have been manipulated. If you'll look, the transportation directors in 12-13 school year, the salary schedule calls for $55,175, correct? Okay, we'll move on.
Well, wait a minute, I mean, I apologize, I've got to catch what you're doing before I can try to figure it out.
It's the highlighted, that's
Yes,
what
I
comes
see
from
it.
the finance department.
Okay,
$55,175 was the transportation director's salary schedule, okay?
all right,
And we're gonna go over here, and you notice he's got a supplement in here of $3,389, which is for a director, because he is a director. And then there's a highlighted spot here of $58,562.84. Agree?
okay.
Okay.
There's a
Now-
55,175 now. Here's one of the confusions I had, and it's a good point. And this is why I'm saying, some of those had the supplement added in 1 year, and the next year would not be added in, it was separated out. And so that caused me confusion, and that's part of what I said was a good point that's being brought up here. We gotta clarify this supplement, and you probably need to be separating it out so you can see it and understand whether it is added into the contract that's being printed out or it's not added in.
Okay. Ms. Perkins, would you say that's about what your transportation director is making?
Mr. Murray, I don't know, without looking at the salary table.
Alright,
I do
that's
not know.
12-13, anyway. I'll move on. Before I got all that information, if you look at this right here, he's actually making $73,263.83, if you will look at this. This is the transportation director, certified, extended, there's a lot of other extras that he's getting there. His actual pay is $73,000. So I guess what I was trying to say there is obviously this pay report does not match up with this report in any way, shape, or form.
He's also a certified teacher.
Okay.
He teaches
Right,
in
he's
our
got
high school.
certified teacher pay in there though.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's back up a little bit here. This was given to Ms. Perkins, and the board was well aware of this. But I'm gonna read what the request was that was given to her directly that started all this. Ms. Perkins, please forward to appropriate staff and also back to me to make sure I know who's followed through with this request. I'm requesting salary schedules of all administrators and directors for the last 10 years, along with other info below. Please have each one individually listed into packets that would have all information associated to their salary. I want to see the contract each year, what they were paid by salary schedule each year, and the schedule to prove the same. And any other pay separated in categories in total for that year, along with a payroll report and verification of that current year. I would like each year separated. I want the approval of any increase the board approved and the documentation supporting the approval. And to show when this approval happened attached to any increase. This should show meeting minutes proving these approvals were done by the board, and let's see, I done lost my spot. And with any increase in the attached to proper place. I'm asking that, in other words, start with the first person and have this in order and documentation to support any change at all, including but not limited to salary schedule, job description, etc., from 10 years ago to present. Please keep each person a separate package, starting with the salary schedule by years and so on. I would like this report to be detailed by years for the 10 years. I would also like the amount of pay given to the financial consultant on a yearly basis by total year and broken down into months with documentation supporting pay such as purchases, order, and her invoice to be paid. Please keep this separated into years also. Thank you. I guess at this point I would ask the board, did we discuss this as a board? Was this approved?
Your statement right there, Chad?
Yes. So, I mean, what, did we discuss this as a board and approve that this was going to happen?
I don't remember.
I'm sorry?
I don't remember.
There was emails saying I didn't know I had to bring documentation supporting that. In the December 9th meeting, Mr. Morris actually had pointed out that the documentation was getting together. That we would have it by, and of course I could go back and get that.
No, there's some documentation, yeah, and I agree with all that, I don't know if it was
Oh, okay,
all this.
understand. So we did discuss the 10 years.
We discussed some, yeah.
Okay. This was the response that once we got 5 years. Per Mr. Murray's request, please find and enclose the requested documentation. This documentation goes back 5 years. Connie Wainscott and Pam Twirliger will gladly answer any and all questions you may have. Ms. Perkins, if the board requested 10 years, why would you only give us 5?
Because in the conversations with December board meetings, we talked about 5 years. I talked about the
No, we did not.
amount of time that it would take to put this information together.
Ms. Perkins, that is completely on record, and I wish you would not say that in an open meeting, because I will go back and we will pull that meeting video.
You know, it may
and-
not have been a
listen,
conversation with you,
the-
but it was probably a conversation with the board chair. And we agreed that we would get as much information together. Mr. Morf, I don't know if you remember that or
I
not.
do remember, I know we were trying to get the information to, when I say we, of course, that would be the staff, not us as board members, to try to get some information together by the end of the year, the end of the calendar year. And we did, and that was what we had, quite a large plot, if you remember. And I don't know that I've looked through every page, I probably haven't looked through every page of it since, but, I think we agreed that we would get what we could, and that's kind of where it's been. I mean, it's been a month, since we got the packet of the box. So
Can I bring something up real quick?
that's what I
The boxes that we all got, my husband came and got mine with me, and I'm assuming that all four board members got the box. It was the file box, all manila file folders, all the paper, the time to copy everything, the printer for the printer, or the ink for the printer. I would say we spent about over $3,000 probably on those 5 boxes. And Chad, you sit there and don't want to take away from kids, but that's $3,000. If you want records up to 10 years, add another 3, it's going to cost us over $6,000 to get that information.
Absolutely.
To
And
whack
that's
it
a
and,
small,
but
small,
no,
very small
I'm
portion
saying
compared
if
to
there's
what we might say
something
that we do
that
this
you
right.
want to see, why can't you just say, this is specifically what I want to see, instead of taking $3,000 out of our school district because you want to go back 5 years
Well,
or 10
obviously, we're
years?
finding problems back 5 and 10 years, aren't we?
I don't believe so.
Oh, we're not? I thought our board attorney just said that obviously he found a few things that are of importance, and I'm gonna point out quite a few more. So, if you're done, then we'll start pointing out some more. And I'll prove to the board tonight that obviously going back the years that I requested, the 5 years, if we would've went back 10, I wonder what else I. Food service director. Salary schedule calls for $46,020. On the payroll report, she's getting $46,020. If you'll notice, on the school website, she's listed as a director of food service, correct? On this pay report, she's listed as director of food service, correct?
Can I ask, please, what report is that you're showing?
This is stuff that you've given me. I mean,
No, I know,
I
I'm
can't
just
sit at
wondering-
home and make this stuff up.
I know, I'm wondering, what is that report? Where did you get that report from?
You give that to me.
I know, but what is it? Can I please
It's
see
a
it?
detailed number of what it is.
I know, can I please see that? Because I'm not really sure what you have right there.
That was a report that came from your office.
But I'm trying to figure out what report this is.
What, the question would be, what does it matter what report it is? Is those numbers different?
I don't know, I'm trying to figure out
Where I'm getting, I
yes,
just
do
explained,
you
they came
have the
from your
full
office.
report with you, Mr. Murray? Can I please see the
I
full
do have the
report?
full report.
Yeah, I just want to see the title of it, because I'm not really sure. I just want to be able to look at this. I would be more than happy to look at it ahead of time if you let me, but I don't, when you bring them to the meetings, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at.
The point of that
Okay,
was,
this report is,
in the job description, it also says food service director. I would think that everybody would agree. This is also paperwork that came from the school district. Also, on the classified contract for the employment of our food service director, her job title is also food service director. My question is,
Mr.
why is she not getting the supplement pay? That's $4,470 that she should be getting. Why would she not be getting that?
I didn't give you this report, Mr.
Well-
Murray. I'm not really sure where you got this from.
So that report,
Where did you get this from? I didn't give this to you.
that
So I'm not
report,
really sure where you got this.
what, is those people that works in our school district?
I don't know. I don't know where you got this from.
That
Who
came
ran
from
this
you.
report?
In
I
matter of
didn't give
fact,
this
if
to
I
you.
remember right, there might even be an email that came from you on that. I will double check. I don't
Okay,
wanna.
please check, because
Yeah,
I'm not really sure
I
what this
absolutely
is.
will. All reports would have came from either yourself or Connie, correct? And
I
what
don't
does it
know,
matter
because I
where
don't
the
ever
report
remember
came from
running
as
a
much as what the
report for
information?
you. I'm really
sorry?
sorry. I don't ever remember running a report for you. I'm really sorry. I don't ever remember
You
you
don't, how
asking
could
me
I
to
have
run it.
emails from you with reports you ran then?
That's what I'm asking.
Anyway, the question
I
here
would
is
be happy to.
this. Clearly, the food service director, she's a director. In last meeting, our finance director said that if you're a director, you get $4,470. If we're gonna do this right, and we're gonna do this fair across the board, would the food service director not be receiving director pay, Ms. Perkins?
If she were approved on a salary table with that, then yes, she would receive it.
If she was approved on a salary table.
With the supplement.
What amazes me here is this. We have a finance director that is clearly not on a contract, clearly not, her contract says finance officer. This clearly says food service director, but we're not giving her the pay. How could that even be?
Because it wouldn't been on an approved salary table or a supplement schedule that the board approved in May or June.
The board did not approve some of the other director pays. But people that are on
They
it.
would
what-
be
what's-
approved, they would be on a salary table.
And another thing,
salary
and if I could
schedule.
ask you, Mr. Crawford, also on this same contract, if you
No,
notice.
which one, Chad? When you say the same contract?
Food service director, we're still on.
All right.
If you notice up there on the contract, I don't know if you can see, right down here,
Right.
it says to pay an employee hourly salary of $25 an hour. My question is this, excuse me, there's actually a salary schedule. How do you have an hourly employee on a salary schedule?
Well, again, I'm not sure whether this is one of the clerical issues that I saw in a couple of different places or not. I can't answer your question. I believe that there is a certain salary that is associated with the food director.
Okay, we'll just keep going here. Same thing. If you go right on our, and you're more than welcome, anybody can pull this up right on our school website. I hate to do it, he is in the room tonight. Director of maintenance, it clearly states he's a director of maintenance. This is right on your school website. If you look here, here's another report. I got this when I first came on board. Clearly says, classified personnel maintenance director. Again, why is he not receiving director pay? Technology director, same thing. Salary schedule, $70,858. We go to the pay report, $70,858. It's right, but she has no director pay. She's clearly listed as director of technology, it's clearly on the school's website.
I have a question, Ms. Perkins. Where do we get the supplement pay? What is it?
Do you
Where
have
did
the
it come
salary
from?
table, Vicki?
No longer get them.
And it seems to me it's set
Like a title
out,
or shade or anything on it. I'm not really sure.
yearly salary.
Obviously, there's no way I can sit at home and make this up.
I know, but I'm just wondering
if-
where you got that.
Well,
I'm not even sure what it is.
like I said, I will check my emails
Okay.
and
Yeah,
let you
please.
know,
Yeah,
because
if you don't mind,
you're
I would
saying
be
you
more
never
than
give me a
happy.
report, and I'll clearly show you
Oh,
I've
yeah,
given
I'm
you
not sure
reports.
if I did or not, but it doesn't look like one that I recognize as sending to you, so I'm not really sure. I really don't even know what report this is, actually. But I can certainly go back and look in Venus and see where this came from. I'm not really even sure where it came from.
Couple questions I just had here.
It's got years of service in it. Usually, I don't have any reports that have years of service in it, that I know
we're talking about the superintendent at this point. It is minimal, but it's still a point. If the superintendent works for the school district, if she goes out and does something else, does she charge someone to do something else and make money off of it?
I don't understand the question.
Well, we had a thing, we did some leased vehicles with the Kentucky Speedway. Do you recall that, Ms. Perkins?
School bus,
Yes.
Well, that's when they had the big race.
we had the big race and asked us to use
Yes.
buses.
Do you recall that, Mr. Crawford?
I remember a couple of years ago, I think that
Did you prepare a contract for that?
I got a call on a weekend in an emergency situation that they needed, to be using the buses to try to deal with it. And it's on a Saturday or a Friday night, I don't remember late.
Okay. Ms. Perkins being a contract position for us, I mean, if business comes into our district, does she get extra pay just for going out and doing something different by, I thought you would be the lawyer that would prepare the contract, but clearly on this, she was paid to, well, it says immobilization contract, correct, between herself and Mr. Whalen, they received $1,100. Could you explain how that could
The
happen?
Speedway paid us for that. The Speedway paid our school
The-
district. We
the-
didn't pay that.
Understand, but the
Yeah,
point is,
we were reimbursed by
And I
that
don't
for the,
recall getting that payment.
that was
if
from
you
the
work, if
Speedway.
you are on contract for this district, you're working for us. If business comes into this district, you do not get paid extra pay.
That was a reimbursement by the Speedway.
My point is, if you're on contract for this district, we have a contract with Ms. Perkins, how do you receive extra pay because you prepared a contract? Mr. Crawford
Regardless
should,
of who pays that extra money,
regardless of who pays that extra money, she's
she's not allowed to
working,
make any other money besides what.
she works for us. If something comes in, if the telephone company says, hey, we have a proposition for you, is she going to prepare the contract and she's gonna get extra money because the school might have received some monies from that?
That was a good question, Mr. Crawford.
Well, I'm asking that question.
Yeah, well, I would want to see everything that you're asking at this point,
This-
to see where,
Hey, let me pass this guy.
well, here's one, look, here's a problem that's going on here tonight, in fairness. You know, this is complicated stuff, and we're going back several years, and in fairness to everybody, if we knew ahead of time what we were looking at, I could try to figure out exactly what's going on and whether there's an explanation for it or there's been an impropriety. And I can't tell that here tonight by just shooting this out in the middle of an open meeting. If the point is to say that these are some issues you want me to look into, like this, I will spend whatever time you want me to spend on it to try to get to the bottom of it. But I can't answer it in an open meeting
This
here
is a-
tonight.
This is a payroll report that came straight from our finance department. How can you not comment on something?
Yeah,
You
because
are a
I
legal
want
attorney.
to, I
You're
still
more than
don't
welcome to look at
understand.
this.
I'm still not understanding what it is the money is for and who it was paid to, whether it went to the district or what we're doing here.
Well, obviously, we're talking about money that was paid to the superintendent.
Mr. Murray, could you give Mr. Crawford exactly, and summarize exactly what you'd like to have him look into? And we could put this on next week. We're spending, it's already 8:25.
With all due respect,
and
Mr.
we've not
Wilson.
even gotten into the meeting here yet.
In the finances, I'll go back to Ms. Giles's statement. We talked about saving money for our kids. I'll stay here till this time tomorrow night. I have a few more
Well, if you
things I
do,
wanna
you'll
go
do it
over.
without me, I'll tell you that.
That is absolutely fine with me. This is important and it needs to be done.
Well, it will be done if you'll give him what you want and let him look into it. That way, he
This
may
is-
agree with you. He may
Absolutely.
say, Mr. Murray is exactly right, this is wrong. And I can show you the documentation to prove that.
Well,
But he needs
this is
to
called-
have this information
This
that
is-
you've got,
I agree.
give it to
He's-
him and
I
let
will
him
make
look
him
into it.
copies,
He's our
but
lawyer.
You're
our
absolutely
attorney.
right, and we'll make him some copies and I'll make
Okay.
sure I get that to him.
Okay, let's
Mr.
do
Wilson.
that, and
Okay.
that way maybe we
I
can
have,
move
I
on.
have two more things here that I'd like to finish up with, and then I'll move on, all right?
And if I could say this before, a good point, because I'll add this, it's an additional piece of information. It'll give you more time to go ahead when you finish. But I know in the past, the previous boards had looked at salaries, and we kind of compared, tried to look at, you know, competitive districts, and just see if we're out of line. And I think by my memory, of course, that's a hard thing to count on, but, I know, you know, we've looked at past districts, you know, and adjusted schedules over time, you know, due to that. Now, that's just one more bit of information I'll throw out tonight, which,
And Mr. Morris, I want to be clear, and maybe I should have said this to begin with. I am in no way, shape, or form what I'm questioning is, did the board approve it? Was it done right? The numbers I'm throwing out here, the positions I'm throwing out here, I am not saying that the positions I'm talking about, that I'm on top of them and I'm upset with the people that I'm talking about in these positions. It's clearly, are we doing this right? And I asked, and I can go, you know, I was asked to shorten up on time. I can go into some meeting minutes where I asked some of the same questions I'm asking here back on May 14th, and it's clearly in the minutes. So, but I agree with you 100%. I'm not against anyone making money. What I want done is for us to do it right and make sure that everyone throughout our system is getting a fair shake at what's going on. Let's look at the dean of students position. If you look at the salary schedule, in 2008 to 2009, the salary schedule says $52,036. All right. Let's take it forward. Now, remember, it was $52,000. If you look what was paid, actually $78,000 was paid out. That's a difference of $18,000 that is in question to me. Understand there's some high school boys varsity basketball, teacher assistants pay, and so forth in there. The $13,000 stands out to me, and this is why. If you go forward, the documentation I received showing me the explanation of it was on August 2003 minutes is what they put in here. It says approval to accept certified employee work schedule change. Obviously, I don't have the minutes from 2003 to the 2008-2009. But what's important on this, now, let's keep in mind it was 2008 to 2009. If you look at the minutes here, May 18, 2009, the board did approve the Dean of Students position / athletic director job description and position. Now, how do you pay out $13,000 additional monies, which I believe is the Dean of Students and the athletic director job description, when it wasn't even approved until May 18, 2009? You already paid it out in 8 and 9. How does that work? Could someone explain that? Finance?
Mr. Murray, I have to go look at everything. I really
This
can't
is
answer
documentation
questions.
you guys gave me.
Well, sir,
I mean,
I
here's the meeting minutes, here's
know,
the,
I'm really sorry. You know, I wish I were smarter and would be able to tell, you know, exactly what you're talking about right there, but I don't. I'm gonna have to go look it up.
So Ted, what are you
I'm
saying
sorry.
there? Say that again, because it
I
totally
can't do
went over
this
top of
just
my
right
head.
off the bat without being able to look at reports and things. I'm not really even sure
On the
what
Dean of
this one
Students.
came.
the position for
I
Dean of Students was
apologize.
approved on May 18, 2009. We are
What are you
basically
talking about here?
paying for Dean of Students position in the 2008 to 2009 school year. It wasn't approved until May 18th of 2009. How do you approve it May 18th, 2009, retroactive the pay and pay that additional monies out? Clearly, if you go to the next year to the Dean of Students actual pay schedule, if you look on the screen, it does increase that $65,992.
Now, the Dean of Students, Ms. Perkins, if I'm wrong, would have got a increase when he got that next certification, right, or not? When he got his principal certification?
Probably, and I don't know when that was or when that happened. If that's the 2009, 2010 salary table, and the position was approved in May of 2009, then that would add up. Because the position didn't start until 2009, 2010. The position would have been approved in May before, in May 2009, which is what you said, I think.
No,
And then
the
the
meeting
position-
minutes, the meeting minutes was in May of 2009.
So
It
just
was paid,
approved.
the $13,000 extra dollars was paid out over the 2008 and 2009. That means you would have had to approve the minutes on May 18, 2008, not May 18, 2009.
I don't know anything about that, because we
I
haven't
wonder
had
if
a
the next
Dean.
issue could be, you know, some people do multiple jobs, like dean of students can be a basketball coach, plus be a director of athletics too, which has salaries, you know, the more work, the more jobs people have. Obviously, the more pay they get for those jobs. I wonder if that, and I'm just offering that, I'm not saying, I wonder if that could be an explanation.
Well, here is the actual job description when it was created. This is from our paperwork. May 18, 2009, Dean of Students / Athletic Director.
Okay, and
So
that
that is-
position would have been filled the following year, 2009, 2010.
So it should not have been paid out in 2008, 2009,
You know,
correct?
I don't know unless it was Dean of Students and we made it, we revised the salary, or revised the job description, I don't know.
I have one more. This goes back to some of what we talked about in last meeting. I guess the question would be to Ms. Twilliger. Ms. Twilliger, did you receive on your, not the current contract that was approved in last meeting, but the contract before, was you receiving travel pay?
I bill my hourly rate from door to door. That's what was in my contract.
So you
as
do
the
receive
superintendent
travel
approved, and
pay?
that's- Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. And I charge half-time. I don't charge my hourly rate, even though that was approved by the
Ms.
board that I
Carpenter,
could.
could you put this in your thing like this for me?
Are you saying I don't receive travel pay? The board approved it, and it's on my bills. And the board
It wasn't in
agreed
the
to pay it.
contract. You also stated the contract didn't
My
change
contract
from
said I
last year
charge
to
my
this
hourly
year.
rate. It has in my hourly rate.
But it does say, you told the board in last meeting that,
I didn't
The
tell
con-
the board anything about travel pay. I've never said anything about travel pay.
if you would let me finish, you told the board in last meeting that your contract had not changed from
It
last.
doesn't change. It's exactly the
Would you
same.
let me finish? You told the board in the last meeting that your contract did not change from the previous contract and your current
No,
contract.
the way I'm getting paid is exactly the same. You're absolutely.
Why
right.
did you include travel pay
Because before.
in the contract?
The board approved me to get full-time travel pay, but I've never charged the board full-time for travel pay. I've only charged half-time. So the reason I put that in that contract that way is to make it clear, because what I was doing was giving the board a break on the travel time, even though it was agreed in the original contract with the superintendent back then, Mr. Palm, and the school board, that I could charge door to door. It's a 2-hour drive for me from the time I leave my house to the time I get here and go back home. And so it was agreed that I could charge my hourly rate door to door. That was the way it says charge my hourly rate. I have never charged the school board my hourly rate.
Okay,
for
so then you
travel.
do admit that your contract changed from last time?
No, it didn't
to this one.
change. No, I'm still getting
Well,
paid exactly the same.
I'll get to that in a minute. I'll show the actual contract. We'll reread the
Mr.
contract to
Murray,
show
my
that the
contract
contract changed.
changed because you asked me to do a new contract,
Okay.
so my
All right.
contract is different,
Could
but
you
this,
click
what I was,
on-
excuse me, Mr. Murray. What I was saying to you is the amount I'm getting paid
Second
is
one.
exactly the same as what I was getting paid
Understand the
before.
amount you're getting paid, but the
Right.
contract did change then.
The contract's different because you asked me to do a new one, so I tried to put a new one.
But there's also different language in the contract, and
There
you
is
said to the
different-
board, that when
there's
you were
different
strong arming
language.
the board in the last meeting
Guys,
to go
Mr.
ahead.
Murray,
This is getting ridiculous.
Let's-
Yeah, it is
information-
really getting ridiculous. I'm sorry. You know what? If
Let's-
you would
the
like, I'll
second-
have an
Ma'am,
attorney draw up a
ma'am,
contract
ma'am,
exactly how you
ma'am,
want it to
please,
say.
please.
It's
Could
fine.
you click on the second one where it says
I'm not really
stating
sure
no
what he's
travel pay?
talking about.
In
Mr.
this
Murray?
clip, you will see that I asked in a previous meeting if Ms. Trilliger was getting travel pay and mileage.
I was not at that meeting. I was
Okay.
not at that school board meeting, Mr. Murray. You did not ask me that. I'm sorry. If you had asked me that, I would tell you the same thing I'm telling you right now. I have always gotten travel, and it says on the line item on the date in my bill that's approved by the board, TRAV or travel, it's in there. The board's had it every
Okay.
time, and they approve
you
it.
play
And I don't know what you're talking about, but the reason I put in there for the halftime is because I've never charged full-time for travel, even though I was allowed to. Actually, I don't charge for a lot of stuff. If Mrs. Perkins calls me or whatever, you know,
We'll
and
get this
asks.
quicker if you just.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm not really sure what you're talking about. turn that up?
Since 2004. It can stay at that point. Talking to the Office of Budget and Finance, they have told me that is a huge issue. There's something more current than I got. The reason I looked at this position, I started looking
Why
at
was it
some
at
of
that meeting,
the
Mr. Murray? I'm
amounts.
really sorry.
On some of these invoices, we're seeing mileage, a separate sheet for mileage being paid out, and also where they're
The
describing.
mileage is the wear and tear
If
on
we
my car.
listen to the video, is also travel being in here. So basically, I guess we're paying for two different types of travel. Would that be correct?
No, one is probably just a consolidation sheet or whatever, and then one is probably the mileage that she has on the separate spreadsheet.
Because there was, on like the consolidation sheet that you're referring to, it says travel, and then there's also a separate sheet that is
That's-
mileage.
But that should be what's combined in the sheet.
So her mileage, her travel would not be included in these hours?
In the hours, no, she does the hours and then the mileage.
Mr. Murray, that was
Okay, so
Connie, she
then
doesn't
we
know,
probably
she
should put
doesn't know
travel
my
in the
contract, sir, I'm
consolidation
sorry.
sheet.
I was not at that
Or should we
meeting.
call it mileage, I don't know. I'm just looking at it, it looks like we're
Yeah.
paying mileage and we're paying travel,
Pay
so we're not
mileage for the
paying
wear and tear on
travel.
my car.
No.
So the mileage is on.
The mileage is the travel.
So the only thing we really need to do is look at putting on the agenda to discuss the contract in itself. Okay, the contract in
The travel
2004.
is for my time traveling here up and back, for it's a 2-hour drive, and then the mileage is for the expenses for the wear and tear on my car. I have like 90,000 miles on my car right now, it's about a 3-year-old car. And it's
I felt like
90,000.
Connie, man, I felt like Connie, which I recognized the voice, I thought that was a reasonable explanation, from what I understand.
Well, I asked a question, my point here is this, as board members, when we ask questions to our finance department, we need to know the answer, and, I mean, I asked it, are we paying her for travel and for mileage? Clearly on that, she said, no, we're only paying for mileage. The
But that
contract
wasn't-
did
I
change,
wasn't clear together and I misunderstood,
okay,
I'm sorry.
fair enough, but the
Yeah.
contract did change.
Sometimes if we would know ahead of time, I could probably have answered that more.
Yeah,
specifically.
I'm really
Thank
sorry,
you.
Mr.
So,
Murray, you know,
I mean,
we
I
make
shouldn't have to
mistakes
come in and
I'm
ask
really sorry.
everything ahead of time, just so we
You
can
don't.
give
You don't.
truthful responses in a board meeting.
I'm sorry.
I'd
You know
like
what,
to ask
Mr. Murray?
another
I'd
question.
really
What
like to
is,
be,
what is your, you had mentioned on the budgeted amount. What is the budget amount for your,
Mr. Murray,
Hey.
you know, when I send my bills in, I may do like a June, July may be in one fiscal year, but it's for the previous year, or I may not bill out till August for June and July, so maybe if it
the
looks like.
budgeted amount for the whole
You
school
know what,
year?
Mr. Murray, I worked all the hours that I billed the school board for,
That-
and it was
ma'am, I'm
approved
not
by the school
questioning
board,
that.
so I
I
haven't
asked what
done
the
anything wrong, and I'm
budgeted
really
amount.
sorry that you feel like that.
Because in the last meeting, we had asked the question about the budgeted amount. What is that budgeted amount? Could you answer that, Ms. Wainscott?
I
Mr.
could go look and tell you.
Could you do that, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it, thank you.
What was the program?
The amount that's in the expenses is not necessarily.
I'll bring this to your attention and then I'll let this go. This is another payroll report that was requested in the 10-year stuff. In this payroll report, I'll back up to November 11th of 2013. The question was asked when we were talking about an open-end contract. My concern was if it's an open-end contract, she could make whatever, it wouldn't matter. Her response, which I have it there, I don't want to waste another 7 minutes here playing that response, but she had made the comment that it's either 40 or 45,000 was what the budgeted amount was.
Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
exactly, I didn't have it in front of me.
Well,
If I made
when-
a mistake, I'm really sorry.
If I could
I
finish,
apologize.
if you will look here on this, when they give me the 2012 to 2013 report from Ms. Twilliger, they put June of 2012, which is not correct because our school year goes from July on. If you take July, August, September, October, November, December, February, and March, they left out April and May of that year. And I believe the reason it was left out was because simply, if you take June of 2013, which is not on this report, and you add in April and May of 2013, that actually takes the actual amount received by Ms. Trilliger in that year of over $50,000.
Okay, Mr. Murray, that's from accounts payable, so that's when I actually got paid the checks. If you needed to know exactly what I made during the fiscal year for like the months, then we should have given you like the actual monthly
You take-
billings. Cause that's accounts payable, so
Okay.
that's what they actually
Well, if you
pay
want to
me
take up
in
more
that
time, we can
fiscal
do that.
year.
Here's July
I'm
of
not-
2012.
I'm not trying to take up more time,
For-
I'm just trying to explain that what your
Here's the actual
explanation
checks.
is not what you asked for.
These are the actual checks with
Yes.
what the service is July.
Yes,
So that would be July, correct?
no,
No, it's
you have to look at the,
If,
well, you have to look at the bill that was submitted.
well,
for
the
what
point
was
of
on
it
the
is
check.
when you add these numbers up, you're over that 40 to 45,000.
Okay, I
That's
might
the
have
point
been
here.
that year, Mr. Murray,
Well,
I'm
that's not
sorry.
what you said in November 11th meeting when you
I
were
said
talking to
usually
us.
that's what I worked for, but if I didn't do work, then that's what I got paid for.
I could go on, but I think I brought enough out.
Um,
This is the reason I'm asking that the board consider a forensic audit definitely
Mr.
be
Murray,
done
I
in our
have
district.
never done any, gotten paid for any work that I did not do for the school board.
Please, we just, let's do it.
Okay, sure.
Just 'cause I'll get going.
You know, Chad, you have some good points on things about like getting a different auditor than the Razor Lappin was, having brighter eyes look at it. That may make a difference, somebody else looking at it that's never looked at it. And I probably shouldn't sit here and say this, and Mr. Crawford might throw something at me when I say this, but I sit here and I think we teach our kids not to bully. And that's what I feel like you're doing, is adult bullying. I feel like you're.
Bullying is making sure finances is
It's the
dealt
way
with
that you go,
correctly in
it's
this
the way that
district
you
for our
go with
children.
people,
Yeah,
Mr.
People
Murray.
that works in
Guys,
this district,
this
absolutely
is
not.
on the agenda. The agenda right now, the discussion is approval of the RFP for forensic audit. So let's just discuss that.
We-
It's a big amongst ourselves.
What is it now?
We have many people that have not been paid correctly, directors and everything else.
Mr. Murray wants to discuss, the agenda's discussed for approval of the forensic audit.
Number 3,
Yes, RFP act.
What I would like the board to think about while you're making this decision is this. This is a very small amount compared to the numbers I just gave you. Granted, I want to be clear, the positions I talked about tonight, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm upset with the Dean of Students because he's making X amount of money. The Dean of Students does a good job in our district, that has nothing to do with it. What we're talking about here is doing things right and making sure the monies are where they're supposed to be, fair across the board, and questions being able to be answered to this board, and we approve things and be doing it right. That's what we're talking about here. I'll also bring out the fact that myself and Mr. Wilson are not attending the New Orleans training this year. That saves this district $6,000. That's $6,000 that can go to this forensic audit. I'll also point out the fact that I do not take money from this district per diem. That's money that can go to this audit. There's quite a few savings, not to mention the savings if what we find and what we're doing throughout this process.
Mr. Murray,
Now,
you may.
Mr. Murray, you're talking about saving money, but yet there was at least, that I can recall, 3 or 4 people that you felt like should have gotten the director supplement pay, $44.70 each.
Absolutely.
That's $13,000-14,000 right there.
And I understand that,
And then
Miss.
you're talking about a forensic audit that's gonna be probably somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. That's money we could use, in other ways. And if they haven't been paid and they're satisfied with their pay, I don't know why we would wanna go back and try to.
I haven't went and did
in
personal,
retrospect, yeah.
I'm sorry. I haven't went and did personal interviews with nobody by no means to see if they're satisfied with pay. That whether they're satisfied with their pay or not is not the point. The point is doing it right. If they're a director and the finance department sits in here and says, hey, a director gets this supplement pay, then a director should get that paid. I would imagine we would all feel that way. It's about doing it right. I mean, I understand that's extra money. Believe me, I believe.
Mr. Murray, I'll speak just for myself here, we don't know that these things were done incorrectly. We got information here that hasn't been looked up. I would think, just my own personal opinion, that you get the information you have, you give it to Mr. Crawford, he looks up and sees if anything was done incorrectly, whether it be intentional or mistakes made. And if he feels we have something that needs further looking into, that's just my opinion.
And what I was gonna say too, for all of us, the 5 members who make up the Board of Education, one outcome of all this discussion, as painful as it is, and it does hurt to sit here and talk about, what happened 5 and 10 years ago when you weren't here 5 years ago. Is the outcome of improving our systems, and, our accountability, watching every penny is important to us. I know we all would agree that, everybody in the room, but if we can get the outcome to have a better system and have the best system, the best work system, the best infrastructure, the best operation of any school district of our peers, that's what I really wanna see out of this, whether I vote for the audit or not, that's what I wanna see happen. Of course, Mr. Crawford doesn't work for nothing either, naturally, when you give him a task, he's got to, or he's not gonna, be able to pay his employees.
Yes, sir, I'll
otherwise.
pay you $100 an hour, and that's from my office up here and back.
That's not.
I don't want to get any confusion here.
But the improvement, that's what we're gonna have out of all this discussion.
When questions are asked, I expect an honest answer, and if you would like to go down that road, Mr. Crawford, I understand that you get paid that, that's not a problem.
I understand.
But it's,
I was
well, you make
answering
a
Mr.
comment to
Morris.
try to kind of be smart aleck about it, and
No,
this is the
wasn't.
point,
I
this
was
is the
responding
point.
to Mr. Morris. I
Well, this is the
apologize
point.
if I upset you. I
But
don't
no,
mean to
let
do
me
that.
finish, you said something, I'm gonna say something.
All
The
right.
point is doing it right.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
there's no reason whatsoever that people's upset with me. Clearly, there's issues here. Would you not agree? I mean, you saw them, you saw what little bit you had on one person's contract. So this is about doing it right. There's no one should be upset with me in this district other than the fact that I want to get it right.
Mr. Morris, Mr. Murray, I have no problem with doing things right. That's
Thank
why
you.
I'm sitting here. But I want you to understand, there are 200 and some odd employees in this district, not counting the subs. I represent banks, electric co-ops, corporations, and these type of clerical mistakes and errors are going to happen. The question is, can we correct them going forward? Can we do it in such a way as, now let me finish, and not to destroy the morale of our employees and get the ultimate job done? And that's our task. As board members, my task is your attorney, and I'll work with you. I'm suggesting, this is all I'm suggesting, is that perhaps we could do some of this by talking to each other ahead of time so we can gather the information and get your honest answers. And I'm sure there's things we can do better. I think one of the points you've already brought out, and I've already talked to finance about, I'm sitting here looking at the extracurricular. We've been voting it without question as a part of the salary schedule. I'm looking at it. We're voting it at the same time. If that is an issue, we can separate it out, make sure that we're doing it in 2 votes, and have much discussion on the extracurricular salary and whether this person should be in it and why this one's not in it. Those are all fair questions. They really are. But there's a way we can do this, it seems to me.
And you're absolutely right. And I heard the few comments around the room when you said about destroying the morale. I encourage you to go back from January 28th, the very first board meeting I ever attended. I asked a lot of questions. I did not bring things out like I have done here tonight. There's a lot of things, there was a lot of questions asked. They're in the board meeting minutes. I encourage you to go back and read those board meeting minutes of things that was asked to be done a long time ago. So to sit here and tell me that I might maybe be destroying the morale, when you ask for things over and over and things aren't getting done, what other option do you have? It's not getting done. I bring it out in the open meeting, it doesn't get done.
Could I suggest that if you don't feel like you're getting a response from staff, I'm your board attorney, talk to me. I will get to somebody with documented questions, and I'm sure that it'll be on the next agenda if people don't answer me for you about stuff.
I've been fighting this system from day one because it's like, I couldn't even get something put on the agenda to begin with, you know that.
But you're certainly getting them on the
Well,
agenda now.
you're absolutely right, and like I said, this, I'm sure people will pay attention to this now,
Okay.
so, point taken.
Can we move back to discussion for the RFP?
Yes, sir.
So that can focus. More discussion on,
Alex, can I read something that I just pulled off earlier before I came up here?
you may.
I just pulled off what is forensic accounting. The answer, forensic accounting is a term that refers to the research and investigation involved in accounting. If someone is accused of embezzlement, a forensic accountant is called in to investigate. So I guess I just need to ask Chad, are you saying that we're embezzling and that's why you're working forensic
Ms.
audit?
Giles, what I am saying is what you heard tonight. I have not accused anybody of anything. I've asked for things to be done right. So to answer your question, I am not accusing anybody. Those are not my words. I'm asking for things to be done right. There's multiple things that was brought out tonight. Those are that's paperwork from this school district. I didn't sit in my office and make that up. I'm not that smart.
What do you
I
think
don't have a
that,
degree.
since Zach Razor and Woods is not gonna do our yearly audit, if we
I
just have new
question-
auditors come in, do you
I-
think maybe their eyes are gonna see different things and
I'm-
we won't have to do the forensic, we can do whatever?
I'm not sure on that. I really am not. I question why they didn't see things. So, I'll be honest, I do question that.
Any other discussion?
I think we're on the path to look for a new auditor and, or looking at changing that. I like that path and we tend to work with that before we do a second. So that would be, my feeling about it right now.
There's a motion.
I move to approve the forensic audit be done.
Second? And the motion dies. Under facilities. Update on Wildcat Academy.
Students are all in, everything is going well. We have a lot of students and staff using the fitness area and the weights. And I just want to let you know that we are still in contact with the architect. We are installing video cameras. Mrs. White was on that in detail today, and we will be completely under video surveillance probably by the end of the week.
We're gonna have somebody look over for that, fund?
Well, we are in